Hello, 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 everybody. This is Tanika Steens, and I am the Mindful Coach. And thank you for joining me this evening on Monday Night Mindfulness. And tonight I am going to be doing Monday Night Mindfulness a little bit earlier. I usually do it around 10:35, but I've had some people say that it's a little too late for them. And so I'm going to try to do it a little earlier, and then you can catch the replay later. After November, we are going to change the schedule up a little bit because the podcast is going to be relaunching November 1st, and we'll have all the interviews of all of our guests, and I'm really excited about that. So thank you for all the supporters who have been listening to the podcast, who's downloaded it, and who's been supporting and patronizing. I thank you so, so very much. And for those who have been listening to mindfulness and who have been saying how mindfulness has been helping them and who've been practicing, and those who have been showing up to continue to practice mindfulness one-on-one and in group sessions. It has really been really fun and exciting to have you there. So thank you. Let's continue our work together. And anyone that would like to learn more about mindfulness, you can always reach out to me and learn more through the website at yourfullmindlife.com. Send me an email to Tanika Elsteins at yourfullmindlife.com as well, or reach out to me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Send me a DM and I can get with you and give you some more information on how you can sign up for a free one-on-one class, or how you can join and get a membership and take workshop classes and learn mindfulness as well. So tonight, I want to talk to you about common errors in thinking. And so I have been talking a lot about our thinking and our thoughts, and do our thoughts determine our decisions, and do we often associate our thoughts with who we are. So bear with me, my internet connection is a little shaky. There we go. But do we often associate our thoughts with who we are, our emotions, our feelings, and um, how we do things? And so tonight, I just want to talk about that and see how we can try to retrain our thoughts a little bit and look at different ways of how we perceive ourselves. So, first, as always, I want you to think about what you have brought mindful awareness to today so far. Is it your heart, mind, body, breath, or the environment around you? Hello, thank you for joining. Also, think about why you chose that topic and how your belly, chest, and head feel when you reflect on that topic. Also, what emotions are associated with those visceral feelings? What positive or negative feelings are affected with associating with bringing mindful awareness to those um, feelings of the heart, mind, body, breath, or environment? Also, what is it that others might be feeling that are similar to what you're feeling? And how may you feel with increased awareness around that topic? And how can you apply increased mindfulness to this topic in your day to day life? So let's think about this. When we're feeling down, because we're going to be talking about our thoughts today and how our thoughts can affect us and the decisions that we make. So when we are feeling down, it can be helpful to remember that bad moods often trigger errors in our thinking. It can make us have snap decisions and snap judgments, and it can alter what we would normally do if we weren't triggered by these things. Our thoughts overly can be negative and inaccurate, and learning these common errors in thinking can help us to recognize when our thoughts are unintuitive. And so it also encourages us to not automatically believe our thoughts when we are in a low mood. So when we can identify which errors in thinking are present and then more effectively challenge those thoughts. So here's a method. We can list the common errors in our thinking And then we can set examples to familiarize ourselves with the errors and practice to recognize them when they come to mind. Okay. So some of the common errors in our thinking are, we might think that if something goes wrong, that we're wrong, or we messed it up, or we messed up. And so just because a situation is messed up doesn't necessarily that we're messed up. And viewing things in black and white, if something is not perfect, we think of it as a failure or a waste of time. So if something is a problem, like say for instance a test, if we miss a test, if we make a mistake on a test, or if we fell on a test, we can't associate ourselves with being a failure because we failed on a test or we made a mistake on a test. That's just simply not the truth. Picking out and dwelling on a single negative event or aspect and focusing solely on it while ignoring the whole picture. Applying a mental filter is similar to tunnel vision, where someone only focuses on and sees the negative parts of the situation. So we can't just focus on the negative part of the situation. If someone receives feedback about his or her work that is very positive, except for one piece of criticism, he or she only focuses on the part of the negative criticism, and that impacts the whole situation. They totally forget about all the positive part of it, and they just focus on the part that was bad and not recognizing that all the good that went into it. They only focus on the part that was bad and associate themselves with the bad part of it. So we've got to take those filters off, and we've got to stop discounting the positive and rejecting the positive. And so when we reject all the positive aspects of an experience, we generate reasons why they don't count and are not important. We've got to stop doing this. And then this is emotional reasoning, thinking that because a certain feeling is present, it must be true and a direct reflection of reality, regardless of any circumstance or contrary evidence. We've got to stop doing that. So, for example, if someone tells himself or herself that because their situation feels hopeless, it really must be hopeless. That is not the case. If someone feels very anxious or scared about something, it is proof he or she is in danger. That's not the truth. We can tell ourselves that, but that's not necessarily the truth. We've got to understand what we are associating those feelings with. We've got to address it for what it is, acknowledge it, and then face it, accept it for what it is, and then realize that that's not who we are. When we overgeneralize things, it's like a process of taking a negative outcome or event and applying it to all areas of our life. And then it overtakes us. And it often involves such phrases such as any negative event that happens, like everything, I always have bad things happen to me, or that always happens to me, or I'm always the one that comes in last. You've got to quit associating these thoughts with yourself because that's not always true. If a man asks a woman out on a date and she declines, he may think to himself, this always happens when I try to get a girlfriend. I always am alone and I can never find someone. That is not the case. Maybe it's your approach. Maybe it's the type of girls you're asking. Maybe you're looking in the wrong place. But we've got to stop looking at the situation and associating ourselves with these thoughts or these feelings. And we've got to stop jumping to conclusions. So this includes reading minds or trying to be fortune tellers. We are not that. And the Bible tells us that that's not the truth. Okay. Mind reading happens when we attribute intentions, attitudes, beliefs, and other mental activities to another person and simply assume that these things are the case or truth or facts. For example, we assume that someone is thinking a negative thought about us, when in reality, they may not even be thinking about us at all. So, fortune telling involves predicting that the outcome will be negative, or saying, I know that you won't like what I'm about to say, but how do you know? How do you know that I'm not going to like what you're about to say? I don't even know what you're about to say. You don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what you're about to say. So we've got to quit assuming or passing judgment or always thinking the worst in a situation. And then we've got to quit personalizing and placing blame. Personalizing occurs when someone thinks they are solely responsible for the outcome of an event. You are not solely responsible for every outcome or every situation. You didn't do it. It's you didn't do it. You don't have to take credit for it. You are not in charge of that situation, okay? And so sometimes events happen, and that doesn't mean it is your fault. We don't have to ignore the situation, but it doesn't mean that you are the contributing factor to the situation. The opposite of personalization is blame. And this happens when someone holds another person fully responsible for something without examining his or her own impact, which means we're not fully taking accountability for our own actions or impacts in something that has happened. And labeling. Labeling is applying a fixed or broad label to oneself or to others that shapes our experience or view of what reality really is. So, for example, saying I'm worthless, or he's selfish, or I can't stand that. You gotta quit. We've gotta quit generalizing things. It's like saying the baby was dirty and you throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. We can't do that. Some things we just have to clean up. And so we've got to understand how to change and stop denying change. It's going to happen. Denial of change occurs when we become upset, indignant, or deny the reality that our lives are in a constant state of flux and that situations and people are constantly changing. Examples: this means becoming upset when our bodies age and we can no longer do all the things we once were able to do. It happens, but we've got to learn to accept these things. But instead, we say, oh, I'm just getting old. Well, but that doesn't mean we give up. We adjust and we do the things that we can do, but we don't give up on who we are and just say, I can't do that anymore. We do what we can do and we accept what we can do and we accept what we can't do, but we can't place blame for not being able to do something on others. And so there's a theory behind common errors in thinking or cognitive dissertation. And this was first developed by a psychologist named Aaron Beck, and then further popularized by others, including Dr. David Burns. And he has a book called Feeling Good Handbook. So you might want to check that book out. And most the errors in common thinking are presented in the method that come from Dr. Burns' book. So check that book out so you can learn more about errors in thinking and how we associate ourselves with our thoughts, and then it leads to our decisions, and then sometimes our beliefs are based on our thoughts. And so be cautious. It's important to note that everyone has these errors in their thinking. So be careful to not judge yourself or beat yourself up when you notice your thoughts contain some of these errors in thinking. Becoming aware of these thoughts and these negative thought patterns can provide an opportunity to identify times when we are thinking inaccurately and then compassionately notice how to correct them. And then we can learn how to be more loving and compassionate towards ourselves and others when we just take a moment to stop and think and try to retrain our thoughts and think on things that are good and lovely and kind. So the next time you think to yourself, is this something good? Is this something beneficial? Is this something that is actually serving me? Is it the truth? Is it real? Or is it something that I just think of myself? Is it a fact? Because if it's not a fact, then throw it out, because you should only operate in the truth. And if it's not the truth, then it's not beneficial or helpful to you or anyone else. Always remember, you were created with a purpose. So go be great. Have a good evening. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. We'll talk to you again real soon.